Wonder if this is working. Wonder if anyone can hear me. Someone's watching. I see someone there. Let us know in the comments. You can probably find the comments on this. There's the chat. Hello, Mark. Good day. I don't know, Mark, can you hear me? Looks like it's you and me. Probably can't hear me at all. Don't know. I tried to find a microphone test button, but I'm not very good at this. It's done that to me, which is not helpful. Probably not. Tea and Biscuits can hear me. That's excellent. That's excellent. That's all we need to know. DMB is here and Mark's here. I don't know if where we're going to go here. I don't expect anyone to really watch this. It's in for a few minutes. Look, hit me up before the stream if there's anything you really want to see. We're here on onshape, and I've tried to make my name down here as small as possible so this actually doesn't get in the way of anything, but I'm not sure that's really the answer. I'm not live, apparently, Mark says. Is that right? I'm not live? It says I've been live for 3 minutes. There's 3 people watching. So what's the story there? Someone else might be able to shed some light on that. We'll get this organised anyway. It looks like live. The button says live. It says we've been live for nearly 4 minutes. It says there's 3 people watching. Who knows, DMB? Anyway, I'm here. Do I go ahead or do I just... I don't really have an answer at all in a little bit. I've got chat. I've got 2 people in chat. And I've got 3 people watching. Mark says I'm not live. And for some reason, and TMB says I am. If I open this, it's a bit bizarre that YouTube have never put their own streaming software in place. You've got to use a third-party sort of system that almost works. Yeah, it says we're live, so I'm going to go with that. YouTube says I'm live. Anyway, that's cool. Anyway, let's go ahead. Right. I don't know what we've covered and what we haven't. We didn't get anything last week because we had the internet out, but that's all sorted. We're going to go through the basics and press create. Right. I'm guessing that we all know how to open onshape. We go to basically go to onshape.com. Sign in up here in the corner up here. There's my sign in details. We can sign out and sign in there. And if you're signed in, then you should have a page that looks something like this. If we go to create, we can create a document or a folder. We can import files. We can make a label. We can import from somewhere else. What we want is a document. So we're going to start with a new document. That gives us a pop-up. What are we going to call it? We're going to call it untitled document. Let's call it basics. And we can create a public document. There we go. That should automatically open into the first part studio. Under here, under here it says Part Studio 1. I'm going to rename that because it's a really good habit to have. And if you just click on that, we can rename it as First Shape. That's pretty generic. And press enter. From here, what we've got 4 people watching now. I'm trying to pull the wrong screen around. What we've got is 4 planes. They're labeled. That one says front, and that one says right, and this one says top. We've got a little cube with the same names on here on the sides. So if we click top, that'll line everything up to the top plane so it's nice and square. And if we right click on this little cube, we can drag it around. So we can click on there and it lines the front one up. So that brings it forward 90 degrees. If we click on the corner, that'll give us an isometric view. We've got these arrows here too. We can click that and just move it a little bit at a time if you want. Or we can tilt it that way. Or we can tilt it that way if you want to be seasick. If we just click on the side, it automatically brings it the right way up. So T&B said, why don't we go along the top and just see what all these things would do? Now, where we are at the moment, we've got basically a function or a menu here of all the things that we've done in this document. We haven't done anything, so it's empty. We don't have any parts we've drawn. So it says 0. And there's no list of actual functions that we've done. All we've got is a place we can turn off our orange and our planes if we need to clear a picture or a nice screenshot, or we need to render or anything. And the origin point. If we do that, there's nothing left on the screen. Turn them all back on again. Anyway, first 2 buttons up here in the corner, pretty straightforward. That's the undo button. It goes back a step. And when we've actually done something, this is the redo. So we can go forward a step if we didn't really think that was what we wanted to do. We've got a sketch button next. Right up here in the corner, I guess, this takes us back to our documents. It's onshape. This one here is a drop-down menu. There we go. It gives us some options. We can rename the document. It's probably not really needed because we can just double click on there and rename it if we need to. So 2 ways to do that. 2 ways to do most things. There's move to, so we can move this document to a different folder. We have document details, which is when it was made and who it was produced by and who it's been shared with, all that sort of stuff. We've got workspace units. So if we wanted to make something here, rather than in millimeters, we wanted to do it in feet or centimeters or inches, let's go inches. We're international. We can change all these different measurements and works. Then all we've got to do is the green tick button. We've got something in inches. We've got to remember that. This is copy button for the URL. This is just basically indicated to say it's a public document. It's not private, so it's not a paid subscription. There's no copies of it. If we put this out there and someone copies it, then we'll know that there's a copy there. Links within the document, there isn't any of those. And whether anyone's actually liked it, if they've signed in and had a look. So that's what that happens up there. Right up this end, there's information about feature scripts. We'll talk about them at some point. We can go to the App Store. It's a bit redundant because most of the app stuff that used to be a big part of Onshape is now part of the actual tool. We can go to the Learning Center, which is really good. We can share it. We've got a help menu. And if we go back here, we've got a sketch button is the first one. So if we click that, we've got a sketch. We've got a pop-up screen, and this is in red, so it's telling us that there's information missing or information that didn't work if this is in red. If we hover over it, we can see that sketch 1 did not generate properly. Select a sketch plane, so that's pretty straightforward. We've got this box here that says sketch plane. If we want to put something on the top plane, we just click this one, which is the top plane. And this turns black. See, that writing's turned black. So everything's right. This is a brand new thing, this sketch diagnostic tools. We're not going to go into this, but this is brand new. I've been playing with that a little bit today. Like this is in the latest update in the last 24 hours. So what you find is that often Onshape's updated since last time you used it, and nothing's really changed. It's just that there's more features. So we've got top plane sketch. If we go to top, so we can see the sketch. All these buttons up here have changed now we're in sketch mode. We've still got these two, which is an extrude feature, which takes us out of the sketch and extrudes the sketch. And we've got a revolve feature, which takes us out of the sketch and revolves the sketch or brings it, draws it round in a circle around an object. So if you've got a half, if we've got, for example, a circle here, it'll make a donut around the center or around the center line. And then we've got the basic stuff. We've got a line, right? If we click this, we can draw a line. If we start from the center, so that looks straight on the center, on the origin point. We can draw a line up here like this. And it shows the net measurement in inches. Now, we can change that before we click off it. So if we just want to go 1 inch up, it'll do that. And if we want to make another line out here, 1 inch as well, we can just do that again and press 1. And it does that. Now, we can keep doing that and make a square. But if we come down here and on that line, we get a little orange dotted line. which tells us that we're in line with this point, see? And we're perpendicular. So we've got our constraints, which is the little vertical and the horizontal line, which telling us it's vertical to the basically vertical to the other line, and we're going to, if we do that, it's going to automatically tell us it's 1 inch, and the same there. That gives us a square. And when we've got a square, what happens is that automatically turns dark, which gives the center turns dark. It's a complete sketch. So what we can do is extrude it or revolve it or whatever else you want to do. So we press escape, that automatically closes off all these buttons that we had pressed. If we think, I don't like this really, I don't want it like that, and if we click this line, we can use this one, which is construction line, and or press Q, and that'll automatically turn that into a construction line, which means that this isn't complete. Then if we wanted to use one of these buttons, like the revolve button, that takes us out of the sketch and pops us up a revolve window. If we want a new revolved, this is very simple. We don't have enough information here yet, so this is already, or the information, this is still red. What it's asking us for is faces and sketches, regions to revolve. We can't do it with that. So that's not going to work. If we cancel that, we go back here to where it says sketch 1. I click it and edit it. We can change this back. There you go. And it makes that square dark again. And if we revolve that by selecting the sketches we want to revolve, it says faces of sketch 1. We select the revolve axis, which we're going to call that line there. We want a full circle. If we pull this around, see, let's stretch that square around in a circle like that. So that's what the revolve does. We've got lots of options, like always. We can go one direction or symmetrical with 2 directions. If we're going to go 2 directions, we can change the angle. So if you want to, there's a pie shape. And we can change the 2 ends of the degrees. If we just want a 30-degree pie from the center line or from that plane, that's one direction. Symmetrical, that gives us 15 degrees each side, so that's how that works. The symmetrics gives you half the distance on each side. And click that to basically approve it, and then we've got an actual solid shape. So that's what that does. If we start another sketch, and we can have as many as we like, and we don't have to, you can have as many sketches as we like. Same thing, this window pops up with the red writing. We've got to find some information. If we hover over that, it'll tell us what we need. We need to select a sketch plane. So it's asking for a sketch plane. If we go here too, we can move this out of the way so we can see it. And select the top plane again. That's putting another sketch. on the top plane. And because we've opened the sketch window, this has brought us back to our sketch. It brought us back to our sketch tools. So we've got a little arrow beside this line we've just used. If you click that down, there's a few options on it. There's a midpoint line and a line. A midpoint line is a little bit different. If we start a line, it'll give us half direction each way, which is useful for some things. So that's basically saves a step. But what it does is give you it gives you a total length of the line there on the measurement rather than just half the length. So as before we were measuring 1 inch, which is the distance out from the center point. This here has a place for a measurement, and that gives us the overall length of the line spread half each side of the point that we started. So we can just select 4 or whatever with that, and it gives us a measurement. If we don't think there's enough information on that, we can go up here to where it says dimension, or we can press D. If we press D, it does the same thing. It selects that little box. And if we select this line and this line, it'll automatically turn that into a degree angle. So if we want 45 degrees, hey, that changes it to that. Press escape to go out of it, or you can click on the button again. But that's what the functions do there. There's a line and midpoint line. Next one is a corner rectangle. There's a center point rectangle and there's an aligned rectangle. So corner rectangle is pretty straightforward. If we select that, we can do the same here, and exactly the same as what we were doing before, except it gives us the dimensions in sequence. We'll go 2 this time, just for example, and 2 again. It does exactly the same thing in half as many moves. So that's what the corner rectangle does. There's another one called a center point rectangle, and that's a bit different again. If we go on the end of this line, say, we'll click on there, that gives us our total distance from the center, or each side of the center. So it does the same thing. And we can do this because as we're working in inches here, and we think that should be 3/8 of an inch. We can actually type in here 3/8, right? It'll work it out for itself. 7 3/8 is 3/4, basically. Close enough. If we go 3/4 there, that'll give us 0.75. So that'll work that out for us ourselves. The midpoint would be good if you're drawing a wheel, but if you're drawing a wheel, you might do something different. Correct. You'd use a revolve function probably and just draw one side of the wheel rather than trying to draw both. I'm trying to think of a use for the midpoint line, but I'm struggling with it a bit. There's another thing here called a aligned rectangle. Right? If we click there, we can make a rectangle up here like this between 2 points and align it with there. And it does exactly the same thing. We can put 1.5 and we've got some issues. And we'll put the other measurement in, which is, we'll call it 1.5. We've got an over-constrained rectangle because this is trying to give us we've got put way too much information in there, right? This little thing here is called a constraint, and we've got issues with it. Up here, it says sketch couldn't be solved. So this has turned red again. But we've got three constraints. We've got this one, which is perpendicular. Basically, it's telling us that this line is at 90 degrees to this one. And this one telling us that it's parallel. And this one telling us we're anchored to this midpoint or to any point. If we click on that and press delete or backspace, see, it completely screws the whole lot up. Press Control Z to fix that. We've got this feature here, which has just come in this week. Sketch diagnostic tools. We've got a constraint manager. If we click on that, basically it's telling us which ones are a problem. Errors. Parallel, perpendicular, and midpoint 1. Distance 5 are the errors. Now we want to keep distance 5, which is this one. If we delete this, see, one of these and it's that one. It's given us a problem because we've connected on there. Now we can go back and fix that, but probably for a start, a really easy way is just to undo it and not actually click on that on the center point when you put the square in place. So anyway, that's what the rectangles do. Next one is some circles and ellipses, which is sort of important too. We want a center point circle out here on this one. Very simple. 1.625 inch and 5/8. And we've got a 3-point circle, which will give us a circle between 3 points. Right, there we go. Useful for some things. What it is useful for is if you've got 3 spokes on a wheel and you want a circle to intersect all those points, something like that. So if we want to, say we want to circle through this point and through this point and through this point, quite easy to do that. So messing around with tangent calculations and things is a bit complicated, but that's very simple. And the other one we've got is an ellipse. A bit more complicated and you do a lot more things with it. But if we select the ellipse, right, we can drag out ellipse to whatever length we want. It's a standard sort of ellipse. And then we drag out the other side and it gives us our dimensions. So if we want it 1 inch across and 1.5 long, this is actually ISO fitting that we're putting in this device. So what we find is that we might need to put a metric dimension on that. So very simple to do. If we select this again, double click the dimension. and this says 1.5 inches. If we put 36 and then millimeters, it gives us a drop down menu that says millimeters, and you can select that and press enter. It actually converts it. It doesn't convert it to millimeters, but it gives you the alternative, which is 1.417 inches. So that's what all those things do. Next one's arcs. They're getting a bit more complicated. 3-point arcs and center point arcs are quite simple. If we go for a center point arc on something, we can put an arc between 2 points, or we can draw an arc between there. If we select the center point, we can draw an arc up to the next point, something like that. But we've got an over constraint there again. The easy way to deal with that, Control Z. What you've got is too much information there, and if it does that to you, you've just got to delete some information that's in red, and it'll sort itself out. But a little bit more complicated than that sometimes too. We've got conics and elliptical arcs and tangent arcs, 3-point arcs. Have a mess around with them. You'll get them all sorted. It's not difficult. But an arc is basically a section of a circle. If we use this tool, which is the scissor tool, highlight that, we can delete that, and you've basically got an arc. Same with this one. An arc there. Inscribe polygons, next one. That's very straightforward. Say you want to, we're getting a bit sort of busy here. Let's delete that. Let's finish that sketch. Let's start with another sketch on this plane. So it's a bit less intrusive, I guess. That sketch is still there. We've just turned it 90 degrees. We'll put this on here, and we want an inscribed polygon or a circumscribed polygon. There's two different sorts there. It's pretty straightforward. Well, say we want 6 bolt holes on an object. Right, we can have them so they line up this way, or we can have them so they line up this way. And it's giving us a number 6. If we scroll this, we can change it, or we can scroll it with our mouse. If we want 11 sides, 10 sides, 3 sides, 20 sides, 15 sides. We just click that and it'll ask us for a diameter. So 3 inches. Because we've clicked on this, it's over constrained the circle, but we can put a measurement in. If we just press escape, it would find its own measurement and everything would work beautifully. Let's undo that. There we go. And press escape, there's no measurement, everything works. So that's given us, that's inscribed polygons, giving us basically a circle or a polygon on the outside, or a multifaceted symmetrical shape on the outside of a circle. The other one will give us the same thing on the inside of a circle. So the dots on the circle and the lines across here, tangent. So useful for some things. Splines. Splines are kind of cool, really complicated. Bezier splines and control point splines and things that are a bit more complicated. Basically, it's a curve that you can, a freeform curve or a curve that you can put complicated shapes in. Spline's probably useful when drawing a cam or something like that. Not convinced about that, but very useful for things like truck cabs and things like that that are all over the place and there's no straight surfaces on any of them. But the controls and things like that, we're going to leave them. Put a point there. So if you haven't actually got a sketch, you can just put a point in there. That's the next button. And we can put measurement. I like to mention the point. If you want to put this across here, that'll give us, let's call that 60 millimeters. We just type in 60 millimeters, it'll give us some options. 2.362 inches. It's very useful if you don't want to put in construction lines and things, just to put a point. Next one, how are we going here? Everyone's probably nearly asleep and we're 40 minutes in. Next one's text. Straightforward, really. Same as any other program, we can just select text and we're going to put, what are we going to call this? Hey, Peter. What do we call it? FOWLER. Probably don't need a word that long. There's a growing number of fonts. When I first started using Onshape, there was 3 different fonts I think that would work. Now there's all sorts of stuff. That's not even useful to anyone, but you can dimension each button. Right. Call that 0.6 and measure this. 1.2, that'll give us nicely in center. There we go. So we've got a row of text there, and how useful is that? That row of text we can extrude or extract or whatever, quite simply. So say for example, we want to extrude this polygon. We're just going to click the extrude button and select on it, and it gives us 1 inch. It's quite simple to extrude your text or whatever. The same happens if we want to put 3mm extrusion there, we can do that and select it, and it does exactly the same thing. Hasn't extruded the dots in the words. If we go back here and edit that, the sketch shows up so we can actually see that. have to zoom right in. If we select those as well, I didn't select it, I pressed the wrong button there. Do it again. Come on. Probably need to do it from this side because that's the side the sketch is on. We can zoom it right in if we need to. There we go. Now if we, there we go. But what it's done is given us two extra pieces here, which are a different color to show that. A better way would probably to put them on two separate sketches and extrude this one and then extrude this one, not quite as thick, and remove it from the other one so that it's just a cutout. Jeffrey Irvin says add the cursor modification so it's surrounded by a yellow circle. That's a pretty valid thing to do. How do we do that? Let's see if I can do that. Give me a minute and we'll see if we can do that. Give me a second. Don't know if that's really winning actually. Because it hasn't changed it. It's changed it. It's changed it on my screen, but it hasn't changed it on your screen. How interesting is that? I've got a big yellow cursor with a circle around it. Very easy to follow. You don't have one on Restream. I'm not sure why that is. It's one of life's little mysteries. I will look into that though. Thanks guys for the head up. I'm going to change that back because I can't actually see that. Yeah, not sure about that. We're going to have to do some research on that. Thanks for that, Jeff. Really get it. We'll go and sort that out before next week. Anyway, we've still got this sketch here that doesn't mean anything. If we go back here to sketch 2 and go over the top of that over here on the menu, we can edit that. We've got this sketch back. So now we've got this next one next to the text, which I don't think was there last time I used it. I'm going to have to do a Google search on that one at some point. I'll get back to you on that. I'm not sure what this is. It's a use button. Not sure what that does. Next one is construction lines. Straightforward. And then we've got sketch fillet. So if you want to put a sketch fillet, so for example, click that circle there and we want to put a 1/4 inch radius fillet on there. All we're going to do is click that. It selects that automatically. It gives us our direction. And it gives us the radius. If we right click that, there's a little mouse icon there. Tells us which button to press. And that automatically draws that in and puts the size in. So 1/4 inch, I don't know about 1/4 inch. Let's go 2mm. And what that's done, if we zoom in, is put a radius on there. So that's what that does. That's straightforward. You drop that down. The other option is chamfer. If we do that with the other one, down here, say, and puts a square line across. And gives us an option to change that. We can change one or the other, or both. Next one's trim. We've got time for that. We've got a little trim there. How strange that my cursor's changed and yours hasn't. Not sure about that. Anyway, we've got scissors for trim and extend and split. Got options. So if we want to trim, say we've drawn this and we'd like this cut out of this circle here. We've got this square here and we'd like it cut out. The easiest way to do that is select trim. Click that. Right. And that's removed the line between that. We can do the same here and here. And that's given us our nice little cut out. If we'd like to extend this back and put this, or extend, say we want to extend any line really, it doesn't really matter. If we want to extend a curve back round here or halfway round, if we select that with the extend function, we can move this around here. And that dotted line tells us that that's what's going to line up with that particular line across there. If we do the same with this side, we can join the two up very simply. There's not a lot of science involved in that. How are we going for time? Need to get rid of that. Next one's offset. We've got slot and offset. Now offset's useful because see this fancy line around here with the fancy bit cut out of it. If we want to offset that and select that line, it automatically gives us an offset. We can change direction. So we want to offset it on the inside or we can click that side of the arrow, offset it on the outside. And if we move off there, we've got the mouse with the little green arrow, so we know which one to click. And that'll automatically give us a dimension. Let's call it 1 inch. It gives us our offset. Got this thing called a slot, which is quite useful for some things. If we select this line, it'll give us a slot around the line like that. So all we've got to do is draw basically the places we want the slot and press a button, and it'll give us lots of options. If we right click that, it'll give us the width. Actually, set that at 0.5. There we go. But we can change that quite easily. Let's go 0.3. There we go. It's a smaller slot. This is all on the same sketch plane. If we try to extrude this, what you would find is that it will only extrude one piece at a time, really. So if we go back to here to extrude, and select that, that extrudes everything. Or it's a bit more intelligent than that, but that's what it's done. We can cancel that quite easily. What we've got is, we can change this to right plane because I think we've run out of clear and easy to see space. So we'll make a new sketch on this plane. Whether we've done anything with the others or not, I'm not sure. Well, where are we? Mirror. And linear pattern and insert drawing. So that's probably as far as we're going to get. That covers basically the main sketch functions. If we draw something out here, let's draw a corner rectangle here, right? 1 inch by 1.5. Now, if you decide that this imperial thing isn't really working, and I think we'd like to work in metric from now on because we're really getting a bit sick of this. It's very easy to go back and change the workspace units. If you change them, it automatically updates your... Change it back to millimeters and click the green arrow. Automatically updates everything, or the equivalent of. We look at that's 38.1 by 25.4. So it's pretty simple to navigate around that. Anyway, mirror on this sketch. If we click the mirror button, it's asking us up there. We've got a blue window pops up, says select the mirror line. We select that line, it turns it yellow. Then it says select entities to be mirrored. If we want to mirror that across that line, it's pretty straightforward. Not a lot to that. And you've got two identical boxes. So that's a pretty useful time-saving little trick. Next one is linear pattern, circular pattern, and transform. Now, which one are we going to deal with first? Transform, probably. Transform's basically just moving bits. Say we want to move all this sketch a bit further away, or we want to change the dimension. There's two ways we could do this. We could either just dimension it from here to here, But if we're worried about constraints and about getting a big red line and getting red writing on our sketch to say something's wrong and we've got to fix it, which is a bit of a concern sometimes, we can use transform, which overrides everything and just selects the items that just moves the items that we selected, really totally unrelated to how they're constrained. We can select this center circle on this little arrow here and move that to our starting point, wherever we want to move it from. And we can move this up and it gives us a measurement. If we want to move this all up, say 25 millimeters, it'll do that. Right click it and there we go. So that's one way to avoid constraint issues. If you've got constraint issues or you're worried about it, there's more than one way to do things. And the transform button's probably the answer to that. Say we want 6 of these, right, in the linear pattern. What I've done is selected the whole of the sketch, right? And this is a bit complicated. We've got an arrow going this way and an arrow going this way, and it's making a linear pattern from that point. So if we want to, say we want 3 this way, and we only want 1 in the horizontal, and this is a bit confusing because it's actually sets a default of 25 millimeters. Let's make them 40 millimeters apart from bottom corners. See, simple as that. We've got 6 in a pattern, and we've got all the information there to change them, right? So we can, if we want 2 of these, that'll do the same thing. And we've got another measurement here somewhere that we can change. Where is it? It hasn't put it in there. I'm going to press Control Z. So change this to 6 if you want. There we go. If we need an extra couple of lines, we can change this measurement. Because it hasn't given us a measurement across here, because we didn't only selected 1 row, if we put a second row in now, it's going to overlap them because the distance, the default distance, is different to the distance, the width of the pieces. So that's what that does. The other function on there is a circular pattern. If we've got, for example, let's draw something else over here, unrelated. And press escape, so that's just whatever it says it is. And we'll put a construction line across here. Doesn't really matter where that is. And we'll put a polygon right here on the corner. With how many sides? 6. And we want the diameter of the circle to be 20 millimeters. Right. To make things a little bit easier, we're going to select this line here. We're going to change this to a construction line. And then, if a circular pattern, we can select all these either like that or by selecting each line individually. And that automatically puts that to the origin point. So that's easy enough to change. We can drag this across here to the center of this circle. And right click it. What it's telling us is that there's 3 instances around a circle. Change that to 7. And that's sort of how that works. So that's straightforward. You can, of course, at any point go back here and we can do some, well, you can use the revolve or the extrude function. If we want to use the extrude function, we can stretch these out in a straight line. We could use the revolve function on these. If we select all these, if you want a real mess, and this over here is telling us which ones we want to actually. Now, like all CAD programs, something that's intuitive to most drawing programs. If you select a group of objects by drawing a window around them from left to right, it only selects those objects. If you select from right to left, it selects all of the objects. So if we only want to select those, I've selected those, and then it asks us for a revolve axis. Which we're looking for. Let's use this one here. And that's given us the 7. There you go. That's fun, isn't it? And of course, we only need to go, if we only want a section, let's go 90 degrees. So quite complicated shapes are very easily obtainable. That's where I'm at with that. If that's of any interest to anyone, but just a matter of thinking, how would I make this on a milling machine, or how would I make this from modeling clay, or how do I draw a shape and drag it out so that's the shape that I want? It's a bit more complicated than that, I guess, but it all works. Anyway, that's the sketch functions. If we go back to the sketch here that we're working on, edit, which is this one, moves the, and again, clicking on this right plane box here on the box, it puts everything as big as it possibly can to fit the whole sketch onto the screen. You can scroll it up and down. But this has removed those shapes that were actually part of the model that we've made. And the reason is because here in the feature menu, this sketch is before the revolve. If you change them around so the revolve's first, the revolve won't work. If we do that, we just drag it up to the other spot. I'll do that. I'll show you. We drag this up here, which is quite simple. This comes up red. It says there's a problem. It's 8 missing sections. That's what that is. If we drag it back down here, then it works. Same with this one. We extruded this item. We can easily change the order of these. You can get confused pretty easy, but if you've done something wrong order, it's quite easy to rearrange it and to make everything work again. Anyway, that's just a recap. We'll have a look at this. Bring that wrong one. It's that one there. We'll bring the sketch up here, sort of front and center. We've got some other parts, and we've got a list of parts here and things that we've actually made. We can turn them off if we like. And we can turn off the sketches that we're not using. So if we wanted to, if they're getting in the way, very easy to turn off those sketches or to hide them from view. There's another one there that's still in the way. So we're back where we started. If you close, we've got very little information there that's not relevant to what we're working on. So to recap, these are the buttons we've had a look at right up to here, which is our revolve and extrude buttons, and then our lines and rectangles, circles and ellipses, curves or arcs, polygons, splines, which are random numbers, points, which is basically a point is a non-existent entity. It won't show in any model, but it gives you a reference to start or to finish something with. Text, use button. I'm going to have to look at that because that wasn't there last week, I'm sure. I'm going to have a look at that. Construction lines, fillets and chamfers, extending and trimming, slots and offset, mirror, patterns and transformation, and that's where we're at. So we also dealt with this dimension button quite a lot. So how to put dimension on something. See, it's critical for the center of this circle that these are arrayed around to be a set distance from this origin point. Very simple to put a dimension in there on that sketch. It's telling us it's 223 millimeters. What if it just wants to be 200? It's done some queer things because we didn't really define that sketch before. So good practice, really. It's very simple to fix because we're going to put a measurement on that first before we start. Make that 95. There we go. And then if we change this to 200, because that's constrained, it'll just move it without changing anything else. And we want to dimension this way too. If we pull this out here, that tells us it's 9 millimeters, 9.113. We can type in 0 to put it back online, or we can make this 20 millimeters down like that. That just moves it. So there we are. Morning, David. So time as a construct. That's sort of how the sketch functions work. So you can go ahead and sketch something up. If you wanted to, for example, I've got a few more minutes because everyone's not quite bored yet or asleep, maybe. We create a new part studio, which gives us the name Part Studio 1. Let's draw something properly. What are we going to draw? What are we going to draw? Really good question. Bottle. What have I got here? I've got a glue bottle. I'm going to roughly draw this up. Right? We don't have to put measurements in it yet. We can put them in afterwards. We go to the top. I reckon it's 40 millimeters square. Right? I'm going to sketch that up. And we're going to make everything relevant in the center. So we'll do it with a center point rectangle. 40 and 40, so a square. It's got a radius on the corner. What's the radius on the corner of the bottle? 4 millimeters. If we go here, fillet, we can select all those at once. And it'll give us all the same fillet, which it says 12.7. I don't think it needs to be that big. Let's go 4. Right, it's given us the shape of the bottle. What is it? It's good question. I reckon it's 35 mil, 38 mil deep. So let's start with that. We'll extrude that. $38, hey? Right. While we're here, I reckon it's about the same radius on it's probably 3 millimeter radius on the bottom corners. So here with our solid tools, we've got a fillet tool. And as long as these are all in a row, we can select them all. It won't let us select the top, say the top curves and the side curves. It'll probably automatically select the whole circle. Put this over here. I reckon that's a 3 mil fillet. There we go. So that's the bottom of the bottle. Now, interesting, there's some interesting shapes in the top. For one, if we take the lid off, we've got a thread. Just as an exercise, we're going to do that. I reckon that's 18 millimeters diameter. So I'm going to put a sketch. I'm going to put the sketch right on top here. It says face of extrude 1. So the sketch is right on the top there. It's not on the actual sketch plane. It's on the face of the sketch. And we'll draw this. I reckon that's 18 millimeters. It looks about right. Might not be. Something like that. And it's hollow, of course. But we'll work about that later. Let's extrude that up. And it automatically adds it in. I reckon that comes up, what, 20? Let's call it 18 too. Now, interesting, because this is a blown glass bottle and it's got some interesting curves in it. If we have a look, can you see that? It's got a curve around there and a curve around there, and it might be nearly straight across the top. We could make it a bit more complicated than that, but let's just do it simply. Put a curve on that one. Right. We'll use the fillet tool. And the same deal here. And it's automatically selected all the others. And we've sort of got the bottle, haven't we? We're pretty close to the bottle. We could use this feature here, which is shell, right? Faces to remove. There we go. This is 2.5 mil thickness. That looks about right. Let's highlight the bottle just to see. If we take that view and we drop this down and find a section view, if we use this plane as a section plane, there you go. That's how that's worked. So very, very powerful program if you want to actually, when you start making parts with it. That's given us basically the bottle. There you go. And that's sectioned in half. We can turn that on and off. Turn off section view. Now, this isn't quite right because this bottle has got something written on the bottom of it, right? And it's got a recess in it. See that? So if we put the recess in first, sketch on the bottom of the bottle. Let's call it 26 by 26, something like that. And extrude that out. Now, it's trying to add it in. If we click remove instead, right, and we make it 0.5 per millimeter, hey? That's given us this little recess in the bottom here. I don't know if that's enough. We can change that. Let's go to 1.2. And put a fillet on it. It's given us a red line because it's not going to let us put a 5 millimeter fillet on a 1.2 millimeter edge. If we select 1 instead, that automatically fixes that. Now what this has done is put this order of operations. If we section view this again, remembers, right? What it's done is just cut that out because we've done that after we've used the hollow function or the shell function. If we get the shell function here and we drag it down here below this one, it changes that. So the shell follows the shape of the hollow, which is probably more what we want. We can turn that off again. Now we want to write something on here, right? Don't know what we're going to put. So new sketch in this space here. And text. What are we going to call this? Bottle. Glue. GLUE. Let's put glue on it. I think it needs to be in capitals. Let's try that. Don't know if we want that particular font. What else have we got here? Don't know the answer either. That might be. It's a bit fancy. We're going to have to mention that so that it's nice. This has already got a center line. We can put a dimension from here to there. Right, it's telling us it's that much. We just put O. That'll put that nicely in center. If we do the same the other way, it hasn't got a center line the other way, but what it does have is a feature. If we bring this in nicely, what it should have is a midpoint feature. But it doesn't, so we're going to have to put a dimension in. Let's call that 6 millimeters, which shrinks that down to there. And let's put a dimension here between, that's wrong. Between here and here. Right, which isn't the center. If it's 6 millimeters wide, 3 millimeters is the center. This font doesn't take up the whole space. Not ideal, really, because it's not really in the center. Let's have a look. If we right click on this, it'll have a edit text function. Now we can change this to something else that works. Something simple. That doesn't work either. But anyway, let's leave it. And easy just to click the extrude button. And why don't we make this 1.2 millimeters? (1.2). Right, so we've got glue sits down nice and square. I think this needs a thread on it. A couple of ways to do a thread. Got this here that says external thread. Cylinder edges. I don't know if we'll probably want ISO M18, 2.5mm pitch. What size pitch is it? I don't know, really. We're having a look. Down 10 millimeters. If we want to add a chamfer, we can put an undercoat if we want. An undercut. All the information's there. If we click that button, that gives us basically a cosmetic thread. Looks like a thread. It's in there. It doesn't take up any space at all. It's not really a thread. If we delete that, it's as simple as that. There's a feature script here called Thread Creator. and a bit differently. We select the face to thread. We'll talk about feature scripts at some point. Don't want a square thread. ISO standard. This pitch of say 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters. Don't want it fully threaded. We want 2. And I think it needs to be a 2-start thread. Does it? Yeah, 3 threads, 3 turns. That gives us a proper thread. Looks a bit ugly, but we can fine tune that. Probably wants a chamfer on it. Oh, if that's any better or worse. Oh, there's our bottle. It doesn't look like a bottle because it's blue. If we rename this, because if we get 1,000 pieces into this, it sort of gets a bit more complicated to find which one's which. Let's go bottle. We're typing glass. We've got glass filled polyester or glass epoxy or glass. We click that. We've changed the material. And we can change the appearance as well. We can change the transparency of it. There you go. I think it wants to be a bit like that. There we go. I don't like those black lines, so we can change that. It's not quite right either. We'll play with that. It's starting to look something like a glass bottle should. So there we go. Hey James. So that's straightforward. We've done pretty well there. So that's how simple it is to actually make something that actually looks like something, as opposed to a lot of shapes and things in gobbledygook that we've looked at. We have a look here, and a little set of scales down here in the corner. Parts to measure. It's telling us that it weighs 0.053 kilograms or 5.3 grams in glass. If you need that information. But there we go. So this is straightforward. I've dragged this on for an hour and a half, which because I got a bit carried away. You know what I'm like. So just pull me up if you're getting sick of it. But I'm going to try and change my cursor. I'm going to have a bit of an experiment with that during the week and see if I can get that sorted. I'm not sure what's involved in that or why when I change my cursor on the actual screen, it doesn't change on your picture. I'm not sure why that is. I'm going to have a look at that. If someone's got any ideas about that, let me know. We'll probably go through some more buttons, either the rest of the sketch buttons or some three-dimensional or solid buttons. As we go, probably next week we're going to do some of that. But if you've got questions, you've got a project you're working on, don't be afraid to email me a copy of it and then I can log in and have a look. Very happy to be as helpful as I possibly can. But there's definitely, it's quite a powerful program and you can actually make things pretty quickly. So I have a function where we can put this label on it too if we wanted to. But that's probably a project for another time. I might keep this one and we might do a lead or something next time as well. Anyway, thanks guys. I'm probably out of here because I've dragged this on for long enough. Really appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate your feedback if there is any. Hope I haven't bored everyone asleep. And if everyone's still awake, thanks heaps. Change cursor before starting restream. That's probably the smart thing to do. And probably I'm just going to find something that works and keep it and not bother changing it too many times and keep it during the day as well. But I might have a bit of a play with that and we'll try again. Anyway, much appreciated. Be kind to each other. My other live stream tomorrow night and see exactly what progress we've made in actual real things rather than just CAD. So if you're interested, hit us up, let us know. And more soon, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Sorry I got you all out of bed and stuff. But I'm out. I'll keep this. We'll put a lid in next time. And probably a label, paintbrush, etc., etc. And see how we go with it. We might keep this one and we'll just do a little bit more to it each time. But it's nice to start a new drawing and actually get people familiar with the real basic stuff because that's the difficult thing. I appreciate that. But anyway, I'm out. Be kind to each other and more soon. And maybe some of you I'll catch up with tomorrow night as well on my usual live